Hello, Gigasnail here with a follow-up to my PvP add-on guide. After covering the add-ons I use for streaming and PvP, I often get asked how I get my raid frames to look the way I do. Well, you're in luck, because in this guide I will cover how to get your raid frames, both friendly and enemy, to look just like mine. First, it is important to realize that my friendly raid frames are in fact default Blizzard UI. To get yours to look like mine, first open the game menu, then choose Interface, and underneath the Game tab, choose Raid Profiles. The key option here is in the upper right hand corner and is labeled Use Raid Style Party Frames. This will create the block effect instead of individual rounded player portraits. Along with this, I also check Keep Groups Together, as some spells have group requirements and make tracking them easier. I prefer vertical frames, but you may choose horizontal. It's up to you. I also choose Display Incoming Heals to better estimate damage response, display incoming power bars to track mana, and class colors to easily recognize who is whom, as well as display pets, since mages, hunters, and locks really hate when their pets die. I do not display main tank assist or border in PvP. I do show debuffs, but only dispellable debuffs. This allows me to better track when and what to dispel. Since execute should be strongly avoided in PvP, I also display health percentages so I can prioritize targets who are in danger of being executed. To match the size of my raid frames, I recommend maximum height and width. After your PvP profile is complete, make sure you turn on Auto Activate for 2, 3, 5, and 10-man groups, as well as both talent specs and PvP. This way, your frames will auto-size to your preference. I recommend making smaller frame height and width versions for 15, 25, and 40-man raids to avoid using all of your screen real estate. Likewise, if you have special needs for PvE, you can make a profile to activate for those as well. While we are in the interface, I recommend also going to the controls section and keeping sticky targeting checked. In the combat section, I recommend keeping target of target checked to see who the enemy is targeting. If you or someone in your raid uses Dispel Announcer, I also recommend turning off chat bubbles and party bubbles under the social section to avoid screen spam during games. Finally, the names section offers many options for unit nameplates. I prefer not to play with friendly units, but hey, to each their own. I do keep enemy units, pets, totems, and class colors in nameplates checked. Totems are of particular use since Blizzard stopped allowing players to target totems with macros and must now be clicked in order to be destroyed. Moving on to the enemy raid frames, I do use the add-on Battleground targets, or BGT, but there are other options such as Zenti targets that allow players to track major defensive cooldowns next to the raid frames. But I digress, to BGT and the settings you'll need to match mine. To access the BGT options, simply type /BGT in your console. From here, move the frames to what best fits for you. It's worth mentioning that some speculate putting all of your frames on one side, or friendlies on one side and enemies on the other, may affect how you perceive new and incoming information. So don't be afraid to swap which side of your screen you keep your relevant information on, as you may prefer one over the other. To move the friendly frames, click the tab on the far left. Choose Unlock, then move to your liking and relock. For BGT, simply move it to where you would like it to appear during PvP. Should the names of the enemy not load properly in-game, hover your mouse over the lightning icon and it will shuffle to refine them. If that still does not work, or if it is displaying the wrong raid size, type /reload UI, all one word, in your console and it should correct itself. Under the Options tab, if you play on EU, I also recommend checking Cyrillic to Latin transliteration, as it's much easier to read. For RBGs, we will focus on the 10v10 tab, and later use the transfer option for 15 vs 15 random BGs, such as Arathi Basin. I would not recommend keeping the 40 vs 40 tab enabled, as it takes up too much screen real estate, and player action bars should be enough to target in those settings. Under the 10v10 tab, enable enemy players. My scale width and height are 150%, 200, and 23 respectively. However, those numbers will change based on your screen resolution and preference for size. I also sort by role, class, name to keep healers on top. I choose the vertical layout, but have seen others use the horizontal effectively as well. I do not use summary mode as it duplicates information, but you may prefer it. I do keep role checked in case the enemy healers want to 2 or 4 heal, which is rare, but hey, it happens. I also leave specialization on in case a druid goes feral or boomy, or a priest goes disc or holy. The class colors option renders icons superfluous, and the options of realm and leader are optional. Some argue role is as well, but it's really up to you. However, always keep PvP trinkets checked, as forcing these from healers and base hitters can mean changing the tide of a game. I keep target checked, and at times even target of target. The latter is especially helpful as you're learning how teams target and momentum in games change. However, with time, this becomes second nature, and you may turn it off for more room. The focus target option is up to you, since if you set focus, it will also be a player portrait, along with your own and your target. Always check flag to track stack count, as well as what player carries what orb color. If your raid leader uses main assist for your target color, then you can choose this as well. Always check health bar to get a sense of raid-wide damage. I also keep percent checked to see how many enemy players are in an execute range. Range itself is also useful, and if kept on standard, it should auto-detect your class range and adjust accordingly. Once you have your options in place, you can then copy those settings to 15 versus 15 as you see fit. Hopefully now you should have a better view of what's happening in your raid, as well as the enemy raid during PvP combat. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to stop by my live stream at twitch.tv/gigasnail. Follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/gigasnailgaming, or leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Now get out there and keep the PvP community competitive and positive. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos.